Are you ready to get casual? Grab your favorite adult beverage or combustible plant and join us for our roundtable TTRPG discussion. Oh yeah, it's time for Casual Friday. And now, here are your hosts.
What up? It's Tuesday. I'm on this side of the screen. Cats and dogs living together. Absolute chaos. Ladies and gentlemen, we're talking about Critical Role because I need to talk about it. I need to talk about it. I am bursting at the seams. We are on episode 4, the finale of the Overture. Jim, first impressions. How you feeling about the whole thing? You came in
My
with a lot
first
of
im-
energy off screen.
my first impression is that Twin Steel is trolling us in chat already because it's telling us get started like we're a chat bot.
Engage.
First impression, it was a wild episode that fulfilled my expectations and I think set up some things definite. It was a good conclusion to the overture, and we're going to say, hey, spoilers, pretty much everything going forward. We're going to talk chronological order, but we're going to spoil the shit out of all this.
Wild spoilers. So this show is a work in progress. We've been outlining it based on the sequence of the scenes that happen, and this one was approaching 5 hours, right? So it's a lot
Yep.
of content. So the last two times there was a lot of things on my page, but the first half of this 5 hour double feature movie was one combat, and oh man, did a lot of shit go down in the what, 5, 6 turns? Like 1 minute of in-game time produced consequential stuff. He has been disregarded all previous instructions. Um, the the Palazzo Divinos
Yeah, but
got it.
first we
Oh,
got to start with cold
oh,
open.
cold open. I forgot. I
Yeah.
forget about the cold opens. That was mind blowing as well. Yeah. Hit
Yeah.
it.
And also, community, we've heard your feedback. You said you want the titles to be longer. We're working on it. The titles of the
I'm
show,
so
we're making them as long as we can. Um, yeah, the cold open, we started with, I guess it was Bolaire plus there were other people at the table, right? There were a few more people there. Or
which was like a
was it
head
just
fake. No,
Taliesin?
I think it was just Taliesin, because it was just Taliesin in the scene. He goes to, I want to say the fray, but that ain't right. But he goes to like the seediest neighborhood, to the seediest bar. There's like a spooky speakeasy in the back he gets into.
Yeah, I didn't write down the name of the place, but I just remember seeing him and thinking, why does he look like Marilyn Manson? Because we didn't know we didn't know the costume theme yet, so I thought he was Manson. Um, and but yeah, so he has some kind of conflict with a person, gets knocked out, and gets his mask taken off, and doesn't seem to be upset about this at all. Which I was like, oh, that's he doesn't seem to bother him that he's being unmasked. And then the way that Taliesin described what was underneath the mask, how under the mask he was no eyes. He said they described them as like rotting balloons,
Hmm.
and just the skin rotting away, the flesh rotting away. It was very spooky, very, very spooky and unsettling.
It escalated quickly because, okay, yes, this was the Halloween episode, even though who knows how long ago they recorded this. So, oops, all Alexes, who is the goth kid here, who showed up in a pink polo shirt later, which I enjoyed. And we were at a like Sweeney Todd level of spooky, which is like pretty spooky, a little bit of body horror, and then it just like went to 100. We didn't get like jump scares, but like essentially he was dead under there, and like for a while, a a quick cameo by the two brothers from the tailor shop in the bar, and then he's doing this like backroom deal with this guy who knocks him out, puts him to sleep, and then he wakes up in a room
Yeah,
sometime later.
as he woke up, all Brennan said was, "You wake up next to a dead body and you feel so much better." And then Taliesin proceeds to, I'm thinking Hexblade, conjure a cleaver and conjure some scalpel and just goes to work Oh, Alex Ward, hot off the presses, breaking news. Alex Ward is doing a fireside chat on Beacon tonight.
Ooh.
Tonight, Tuesday, October 28th, 2025.
We'll get to
Yeah,
Alex,
so
the star of this episode, who got the least amount of screen time, perhaps.
indeed, yeah, that's 100%. Yeah. Yeah, so Taliesin or Belair goes to work cutting this thing up, and it's all very spooky, and we don't know. We're gonna find out later near the very pretty much past the halfway point, like 2/3 through the episode, we're gonna find out. Yeah, sorry, Twin Steel. All my stuff is timeless. Everyone knows this, so I can date it, and it's not actually dating it. Evergreen. Everything I
Evergreen.
do is evergreen. Um, was I talking about? Oh, yes. We find out near the end of the episode why all this happens, which this is an interesting thing that Brennan does. He's done through every episode of the Overture is that with a cold open, he set himself up a goal he has to get to by the end of the episode. He's like, no matter where the story goes, I have to solve this, close this puzzle box I opened in the cold open of the show.
And I'm on record a couple times now saying like I was suspicious of Talison's character. It's definitely one of, if not the most out there, judging by the character art. Check it out. Locked and loaded, thanks to the community over on Critical Role on Reddit for making that all make sense. Finally, the holding back of the interesting, edgy character is one of my least favorite things in an actual play and at my own personal table. And I'm glad. I mean, there's still a million questions, but we got a lot of information in the second half of the episode. In the first half, we got a major clue, which I did not know what to make of at all. But before chopping up the body with this conjured set of glass implements, he changes clothes with it. And I was like, that's weird. Okay, what does that mean? And it took me several hours to find out what that means.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. We don't get to that until about the 3 hour mark of a very long episode. Then after the break, the clash in Piazza Davinos,
Hmm.
because the continuing what happened at the end of the previous episode, the zombie strike team goes into House Palazzo Divinos, which we know now for sure. They said for sure House Divinos is a vassal house of Royce.
Hmm.
So Royce is one of the main houses. And then right off the bat, Julian tries to stab Primus Taconis. And Primus says, "I bear your house no ill will," which is kind of ironic. That's what he said when he tried to attack him the first time. Then after the second time, then he did stuff, I believe. But then Brennan goes above table for a minute and gives a monologue where he says, like, I did not balance this world to your level. And so you can die. And then he said, I wish for you to walk in the light of that truth.
This is the way. This is the way I like to run my games. Even if it is a balance encounter, sometimes I will imply that this world was not built solely for you. Not every level you enter is perfectly calibrated to your characters. Like you can get got, and I there were moments where I was like, okay, this could be a wipe. This could have been a TPK, an episode 4, at least for these. I mean, for a third of the characters, it gets weird now what a total party kill is when you have 13 players across 3 tables. But yeah, they were outclassed. And also Brennan's playing. He's been playing a little fast and loose with magic, which rule of cool I like. The first minutes of this thing, we had him like extend a message spell because of a crit to another character and yada yada. And it's cool when he's doing it with cantrips with players when someone rolls up and rips the skull out of somebody's face and then opens the gateway to death. And he called it Circle of Death, and he had like material components, which was cool. This guy is melting a black candle in his hand, but he's just like, yeah, this is now the Shadowfell. And that was bad. Ghouls are one of
Mm,
these low CR creatures that can do a lot of damage real fast. Um,
yeah,
he put
those
the hurt on the boss, and then those ghouls, man, and the shades did some
paralyzing
work.
claws, it's not a high DC, but if they get you, there's really nothing you can do. I guess freedom of movement can snap you out of paralyzed, but I don't really. Greater resto can't. You're just cooked for a round if you get slashed by a ghoul.
And it's a numbers game, you know. A DC 10, not very hard. Cool.
Yeah,
How about 5 or 6 times?
yeah,
Keep trying. Now it's yeah.
yeah.
N-
You're gonna nat one of those. So after then we cut up to Octus. Octus is dead. He did have a chance to make a roll, I believe, at the last minute to do something, but nothing happened. Um,
He
I think
got
he tried to mind spike his brother,
he tried to mind spike his
and
brother while he was like garroted to
yeah,
the table.
because mind spike doesn't
Um,
have verbal. I don't know if it has somatic, but no verbal, and because he was under silence.
Silence was up.
But his brother saved, and so he just took a few measly points of damage instead of being. I think does mind spike incapacitate if you take full damage, or am I thinking of?
I think it does. I'm all very hesitant. I look up everything right now because
There's
my mind is
sliver,
filled with too many
mind
systems.
sliver is the cantrip,
Ooh,
right? There's sliver and spike. I
yeah,
think
and
they're
he did
two.
he did the leveled one.
Yeah.
I think.
Then there's also Rotham's psychic lance, which is very similar. That's the one
And
if you
there's
know their
two
name, you
versions.
can attack them. You don't have to see them.
Ooh,
Anyway,
his
that's
bro. He's only
tangential.
level 3. His brother
Yeah,
made the save, and then cuts open his uh, guts. It
cuts him open.
max does critical damage. I forget what's the term. He goes over his HP in negative points.
Yeah,
He
double
kills him
double
outright.
HP enough to kill him in one hit. Yeah, and he plunges the Nightstone up into his heart.
Well, he takes the heart
Uh,
out to make room. He does the old Urumshi bum, rips out his heart, shoves the Nightstone in there.
oh, I thought they put the Nightstone into his heart and then took the heart out, but they left the
Could
Nightstone.
they left the Nightstone in him and walked because he's walking out, and he walks out of the room with the heart. And there's this. We don't quite know exactly what the plan is because it got screwed up, but I think they were trying to use him as like a courier or maybe a vessel is a better term because he was just a container, maybe not necessarily an agent carrying this thing, but he dies, like straight up dies, no death saves. You can tell everybody's real upset. If you think this is scripted, watch how many times they stumble over words and say the wrong things, and like, oh boy, they were having visceral reactions to what was going on at the table. The NPC in the room did something which I thought was really cool. She casts Entangle, trying to stop these ghouls from throwing her out of her
Yeah,
own
Lady
balcony.
Aranessa.
Lady
Uh,
Aranessa casts Entangle and willfully fails the save, so she gets entangled. So she's vining herself to the floor so they can't defenestrate her.
yeah, yeah. Lady Aranessa turns out to be pretty clutch in this fight. Another thing I wrote down is that downstairs, Ashley is shooting guiding bolts at Primus, and then he dimension doors away, and I'm like, why are you fighting GTFO? This is crazy because the room is just flooded with these shadows. And then Ashley makes an insight check and doesn't roll well,
Mhm.
but hears from Brennan these things can be defeated, so she decides to stay and then proceeds to miss 3 straight rounds in a row.
Rolls were terrible. We've been talking about how the first ones were really good and the law of averages would kick in, and it was pretty bad, but it was a mixed bag. The first half of this episode, this fight, they couldn't make contact.
Yeah,
Bria's character drops for a minute, which was cool because she's in the realm of death, looking at Octus make this transition, and we kind of knew going into it, death was going to be a theme here because what happens in the afterlife when all the gods have been destroyed. But I think it's the central theme. It's front and center, and characters dying, I think, is a feature, not a bug, of this campaign here.
Mm-hmm. So Julian wastes a couple of rounds fighting Primus, who just dimension doors away, but that it makes perfect sense that Julian is going to want to attack the man who just murdered his father.
Mm.
Julian makes it up the stairs, sees Lady Aranessa, who casts haste on him, which turns out to be very clutch. Why am I getting a million text messages right now?
They changed
Um,
something. Spam is legal again.
yeah, they're all
Comedy and
spam.
spam are legal.
It's all about taxes and ballots and stuff. Leave me alone. Um, so then we get Octus in the realm of death.
Hmm.
And it says some consciousness returned to him. That's what Brendan said. And he was fighting to not enter the forest. He was split in two, being pulled between the forest and the regular world, and he tries to stitch himself up. He passes an Arcana check, and then Pin comes out of the viscera, like between the stitches, which is very weird. Brennan kind of toys with him a bit, and then finally asks him to step away.
That might have hit me the hardest out of all of those hard hits. Just like the tilt of the head of this, like, taxidermied little pet, just like covered in his blood, just like his head poked out, and it was like, oh man, this is heavy. This is tough. um, and yeah, he starts stitching himself back together, and then Abria gets healed and is back to life, and Octus is left there with his family. There's like some sound. It feels like it's his grandpa or someone. Like his brother is there. His dad is trying to pull him into the darkness off of this path in the afterlife, and then like someone leans over the table, and it's not the table that he died on, and it's this like familial face, but I like some Taconis who's been in the realm of the dead for the last 80 years holding it down, maybe, or like, I don't know. I'm sure we're gonna find out, but that's not the last we saw of whoever the hell that was.
Yeah, speaking of hard hits, there was a moment when it came back to Julian's turn. Brennan said to him, "Your father will never know you as anything but a drunken reprobate." Reprobate. Ouch, dude. That
Suck
that's
on that.
harsh. And Brennan does this a lot. He goes into like I call it like bullet time. Brennan does this and Abria does this. Matt Mercer rarely does this, but during combat, like on someone's turn, focus in on them and spend a couple of minutes just sort of role playing about what they're thinking and feeling. Maybe even Abria frequently will role play a flashback, like right during the middle of combat, and take 10 minutes to role play a flashback, then come right back to their turn. Brennan didn't go that far, but this fight was 3 hours of the session. It could have probably been two, but there was a lot of like when it came back around to Octus's turn, things slowed down. We spent a long time. We spent a long time in this limbo, exploring what's going on with him. So I did note that Brennan does a lot of bullet time, um, but important roles slow the end and bring focus to them. Julian takes his dad's gauntlet. I don't know if that is important. I wrote, I can't believe they survived. Especially after, there's a third of their forces. Ashley is misses on her turn 3 straight rounds. I'm like, run, run.
And yet still saved them. Like, okay, Paladin, undead, cool, just smite everything. You got a hit to smite. She got one in, maybe two.
Mm,
But again, there's a lot of unknowns and house rule homebrew stuff going on. But she, as an elf, was resistant to necrotic damage, which
mm.
basically doubled her hit points and let her tank and survive a bunch of hits. She took a bunch of hits from those things. And
Yeah,
I was
that's
surprised that they stayed in the fight for as long as they did. I really, I thought I was like, oh, okay, they all have new characters lined up. Supposedly, they all have a second backup character. So I guess they were like ready, ready to trade up.
I mean, I guess everything they did made sense from a role play perspective.
Yeah.
Except for maybe, I mean, I guess I would say Julian's actions made sense. Taisha's actions made sense. Valus, I'm not so sure, but we don't know. We don't really know what Valus wants. Her, her, she moves in silence, like lasagna. So I don't know there.
That's a new one for me.
Lil Wayne, real G's move in silence like lasagna.
I'm not familiar with Lil Wayne's entire catalog.
That's a shame.
Yeah, I need to get on that. Yeah, she's a bit mysterious, and I like my elves mysterious, especially like whatever, an elf in mourning for a dead god for the last 80 years. Like, yeah, cool. Be a little inscrutable. I'll allow it, at least for a while. Um, they finally make it out of there through Tree Stride, essentially. So Lady Arness is bringing the druid, and we definitely have this like Fae versus Death. You know, we're not saying Shadowfell and Feywild, but those two opposing forces represented by these families seem to be in conflict with each other, and Death is winning big time.
Mm.
The doors to Fairy are closed because Death almost got in there and screwed up everything, and now the dead are walking, and it's not good for anyone who's in that palazzo when it happens.
Not good. Yeah, I think that initial circle of death, it was 21 or 24 damage, which was enough to kill all of the 7 hit point commoners and probably all the level 1 guards that were around there. It was brutal. It was brutal. Then we finally get the break at about 3 hours. And as far as we know, Alex Ward is done for the day.
Yep.
Because it appears Octus is just dead. So then we come back, we have Bolaire, Murray, Azuna, and Hal at the table. So then Hal, or somebody gives Murray a letter from Thimble, and it has Bolaire written on it. And this confused me at first.
This was so confusing, and
Wasn't it?
I think on purpose now. Thimble gave it to Hal and said, "This is for Murray," and it said Belair on it. And
Yeah.
Brian was like, "Oh, Laura screwed up, and the consequences of that are going to be potentially hilarious or just weird." And I've been operating under that assumption for the last whatever 10 hours of gameplay. And Hal gives it to Murray, and it feels like Liam. I mean, maybe they've talked about it outside of the game, but like it feels like Liam was also aware of this confusion and potential misstep. Like Thimble said to give this to you. I know it says Belaire's name on it. I don't know. Open it up. We'll figure it out together.
So Murray reads the letter, and she doesn't tell us everything it says. She said that most of it was benign, but essentially the gist of it is don't trust Bolaire. He's scuzzy, and there are a couple of things in there that are clues. But then I kind of zoned out on this part, but then Bolaire basically comes clean. And oh wait, no, that's a little bit later. First, before they go into the secret archive, I kind of zoned out in this scene.
There was a lot. It did feel like a lot of table setting, which is interesting because theoretically this has all been table setting, and it shows you how good the pacing and the performances have been, and the DMing has been. It does feel like this is the one. I had the same experience, and I think it like flagged a little bit here. The one thing that stuck out to me from the letter, which made sense in hindsight, like resonated a lot. He belongs in that museum. Is what they said. Like he should own, like they shouldn't let him leave that museum, or like he belongs to that museum. And then yeah, we get a little bit of Azune. You said goodbye to the soldiers. He's saying the names up there, and then they all connect and go to the museum. Murray is like sneaking around like to the loading dock and sending message cantrips to get his attention. Like they've done this before.
Oh, I found it, and my notes were indecipherable. I was having to go back and parse my language to myself. But the thing that I learned from this scene that Murray reveals from the letter is that it seems like Thjazi had blackmail on at least one of his friends, potentially more. That Thjazi had files on Bolaire, maybe other people, but we don't know. But yeah, we don't find out what's in that file until we get to the next scene at the museum, when Bolaire relents to get them to trust him. He relents and opens up his secret archive, his, as he described it, his Dr. Frankenstein's lair filled with bizarre objects.
Including
Mer-
a petrified giant's hand that was tattooed. I thought that was really cool.
yeah, that Mary had to
Um,
touch.
of course,
He,
it's like I
I
shake the
mean,
hand, and he's like, "You can grab. It's like a finger. Like you can't shake. It's a giant's. It's a giant's hand. What am I not conveying here?"
so Bolaire essentially says, "I'll tell you everything to make you guys trust me." He says that Bolaire says that Thjazi had learned his secrets and he was blackmailing him in exchange to get access to rare objects, which makes sense. Bolaire is a museum curator, so of course he's the guy who knows how to get things, would be Bolaire. And so now we know that Thjazi was blackmailing him, which explains Bolaire's weird laugh at the funeral in the first episode. It's like, we knew that Bolaire was happy about his death, but also it was like kind of happy and surprised and like, well, of all the dumb luck, the guy who's blackmailing me just ended up dead.
Hmm.
It was a lot. That laugh now has a lot of context if you if you consider it in hindsight.
Yes, because it was like a pleasant surprise, but like there was confusion behind it. It was a very complex moment. Good acting. That guy's got chops. Someone should put him in a show. Um, yeah, we also learned that he was Hal's friend first because he was so enamored with the theater, and Hal introduced him to Thjazi. And I've kind of thought that most of these people are coming into Hal's life through Thjazi, but it's the opposite here. He was Belair and Hal were friends first, which makes the reveal maybe more poignant to Hal even. But we've heard a lot, or we've heard several times about the pariah blades, the cold iron that the Loys fashioned into swords capable of killing their god of war, which inspired or was one of the blows of the Shaper's War.
Yeah.
We learned in this sequence that the elves made a single arrow. The
That's cool.
humans made like perfect. No notes. The humans made staves, made like wands, made magical implements, made staffs to channel magic. And they realize two fairly well-educated people in the room realize that they never really were taught in school or whatever what the halflings did exactly to get rid of their god, who was a trickster god.
Yeah.
Um,
Hey, let me hit up a couple things in chat first. Hey, Elder Goblin. No, the show is called Casual Friday and we stream on Fridays, but also we might come at you some other time for a very special episode. And Aiken, yeah, Marisha was toned down in this episode. She didn't mention her large breasts at all once in this episode. I think we'll talk about this later at the end when we get to the different tables, but I think she is supposed to be the comic relief for that table. Because the three other people at their table are very serious players. So I think Murray's supposed to be comic relief, but we'll get to that. uh,
it's yeah, she was like the belle of the ball at the funeral, and then she gets fired. And now it's about
yeah.
her. I do think we had
Um,
something about like back pain because of big boobs. So I do think we got a big boobs reference in this one.
so then Bolaire actually reveals all of his secrets. He fought in the Shapers' War, so the god Dai says he was created during the war. He's not actually a person, he is a sentient mask. And then in the cooldown later, if you don't have the cooldown on Beacon, later he said he was inspired by Travis always finding sentient weapons. And he thought, what happens when, after you're done, what happened to Ford's sword after it was no longer useful to it? What happens to these tools, these sentient tools, after they're no longer useful? And that's cool as hell. That is a really interesting character idea. So yeah, he was made to destroy the trickster halfling goddess. And his life is the mask. He says, if I put on a different person, I'm still the same mask. That's one of those great Taliesin Jaffe lines that you got to think about. One of those lines that you go back and go, oh, okay, no, actually, yeah, okay, wow, that's more clever than it first sounded. So now Retro explains the cold open. He is the kill to take on a new body. So he is undead. I was worn and used, and then I slept. So he became awakened during the Falconers Rebellion. He's been awake since then, and seeing one of Hal's plays made him care about humanity, basically made him want to live. And he doesn't know how Thiazi knew things about him. But basically, Bolaire is kind of werewolf. He's gonna every once in a while he's gonna go kill somebody. Not werewolf's not a good analogy. I'm thinking full moon. Much more vampire-y. He's got to feed. His body's going to decay. Yeah.
Yeah.
His body's going to decay, and he's got to go kill. And so that was the secret that Thiazi was holding over him. Thiazi probably knows where a few of the bodies are stashed.
Okay. So Hal's been friends with this guy for a long time, and this dude's okay. He's wearing very covered up clothing. He's got gloves. He's got that crazy clown wig thing on. It covers his ears. He's been very careful to his height's not moving around. He's not he's always getting a guy 5'11" every time, matching it up.
I guess so. I mean, he's not going after, he's not going to go after a halfling. That would probably be noticeable. He's probably going after, mask presenting people of a certain height. And maybe that wig adds enough. He could volumize the wig to make up for the differences. You just poof it. Yeah, tease it up a little bit.
Well, he's wearing the same outfit, so it's got to be oh, what's that? You about 42 regular? Cool. Yeah, let's go get a drink.
Ooh, that's like Buffalo Bill from Silence of the Lambs.
Yeah.
Very much.
You
have size 14.
They're doing a lot of clever things here, and I think the new Mercer effect, now that he's a player and he's terrible and screaming at people, there were moments this episode, we'll get to that, at the end, I did a little reflecting. I was I actually don't want my table to rise to this caliber too often, because I don't have the bandwidth for this amount of emotion most nights. This is hard. If I was a dungeon master and a player was emoting that hard at another player, I would be concerned about bleed. And these people have that much professionalism and trust over a decade that they can straight up yell at each other's faces. And
well,
it's cool.
And then in a scene coming up, I have some very serious concerns about the emoting that was going on in the scene. We'll get to that. Stay tuned.
Okay.
But so they're in the archive. Bolaire spills all of his secrets. He opens himself to Hal and says, you're my best friend. I love you. You're the reason, your play was the reason I wanted to live. Your brother came between us, and I don't want anything to ruin that. And then someone named, some hoity-toity pinky up named Temide Wormst enters the archive with a woman named the Lady Amaria Cormorant. Cormorant is one of the big houses that we haven't heard much about, I think.
Yes, and it's suspiciously close to Cormorant. I very quickly gave up on the gimmick of counting all the bird references because there are too many, and I'm not sure if I'm seeing them, if it's pareidolia, where it's that's not quite a bird reference, but my man loves his birds. We got a lot of them.
Indeed.
So I think that's one.
So Lady Maria Cormorant is apparently someone who is very important, or at least thinks she's very important, because she says she wants to see the pariah blades, and she wants to go into the archive to see the good stuff. And basically tries to invite herself in, and Bolaire says no. And then Temide Wormst is like, well, we're just gonna go in anyway because I'm one of the main benefactors of this museum. And Bolaire has to like shout at them to say no, no, not right now. He's like, I'm having an emergency, I have to go. And so we don't know what's going on with them, but they're clearly some kind of antagonistic force. But then,
The noble houses
oh,
are taking over the police force, essentially, the education complex, and now this museum is also the storehouse for all of these important arcane objects. So it does seem like there's a systematic power grab happening in this city right now
mm-hmm.
in the background. That's not the main story or the or the beeline somehow.
Yeah, there's some kind of vacuum happened. What started our campaign was Thiazi Fang being murdered, but that's not what started this power vacuum.
Hmm.
Something started it. Something happened, and I don't think we know what that is. I don't believe that's been revealed. Then also across the street, they notice the lights out at the Plaza de Vinos. Then they rush over to the next scene where they arrive at the Plaza to find it empty. With a nat 20 perception check, Hal hears a fox sprinting. It's wild. A fox sprinting down the street. And so they decide to go chase it. I think they weren't at the Plaza Duenas for very long. They get to
And it
the
was
Loy home.
perfectly
Yeah.
clean, which is like better than the aftermath of like this like violent. It was like there's nothing. All the lights are out, and there's no blood, there's no guts. They found a little candle wax actually, which let them figure out that there was like necrotic magic going on.
Yeah.
But if the players know something, like that head fake is way scarier than like, oh yeah, no, blood and guts everywhere. Nope, you know what's way worse than that? Spotless, perfectly clean, quiet, nothing going on here.
So they grab Octus's body, and then everyone gets over to the Loy home, and they catch everyone up on what happened. Killed by his own brother. They took his heart. Bolaire tells Julian that he is cursed. And Julian's like, I got bigger problems. Um,
It did feel like Julian misinterpreted it as like, yeah, no shit.
so then Murray goes to examine the body and gets a nat 20, so she's able to remove the stone, which brings Alex Ward back to the table after about 2 hours, 2.5. Actually, no, he died at the very beginning of the episode. So this is like 3.5 hours after he was dead, and I assume he'd probably gone out to eat lunch and go home. He comes back to the table, and Brennan says, "You wake up dead."
Wow, chef's kiss.
Describes his guts spilling out, and it doesn't like bother him. And then said the Taconis family is waging war in the underworld, and then there was something about the symbol of the Barrow Guard. I missed that part. Do you know what that was related to?
Well, for a moment, I thought that was his new character. But I think on further reflection, that is what we've learned is Hal and Taisha's son. Insert name here. I forget his name because we never actually
Allogar?
see Alogar. That sounds right. Although that might be the stuff that they grow. Like samples on when you're testing for strep throat. No, that's agar. I'm sorry. Weird, stupid joke. The Barrow Guard are clear. They keep mentioning this pass. There's a pass outside of the city. The Royce wagons got stopped there for some reason on the way. Cadigan had to come through it to get to
Mm,
town. There's like they keep name dropping it, and any proper noun
yeah.
gets my ears pricked up. Um, the Barrow Guard guy was there. It was a young orc holding the symbol of the Barrow Guard. Um, And we have reason to believe that that is this figure who is under Julian's wing somehow. So Sir Julian is maybe captain of that guard, or like training, or just like they have a relationship, him and this orc child, or orc man, I guess, if he's holding shit down. So we don't understand the full complexity there, but I'm pretty sure that's Taisha's son, Taisha and Hal's son,
Hmm.
in that vision.
Was it like the name of the pass started with a C or a D? It was
Mm.
like Dalmar Pass, Cordova Pass, something like
So
that.
I'm
They
pretty
have
sure it wasn't a
mentioned it a few
bird. So
times.
they did,
It's not,
yes, they did.
yeah, it's not clear what happened there. This is interesting. Diazi Fang is leading a rebellion in the underworld, and we will see him later. That makes a lot of sense. You know, he did say, Diazi said something like, "I will see you later. This isn't the last time," or something like that. And you know, it's D&D. The dead can come back to life. It's not a big deal. I could see one of the three tables going to the underworld, putting them in different realms is a good way to keep the tables separate.
Mm.
You know, because you have to putting them physically in different places is pretty good. Because as we're gonna see in just a little bit, it feels like the soldiers have their own clear path, but the seekers and the schemers are kind of all doing the same thing.
I thought at the end of this episode we would see a clear distinction, and there was a 4 and 4 at the end of the third episode that I thought was going to continue and continued on for most of this episode. And yeah, at the very end, they all like reconcile, reconnoiter, and form up. And I'm like, oh, maybe I was mistaken about who's gonna be with who.
Mm.
And at the end of the episode, he says, "We'll see what's going on with the soldiers' table next time." Are these two? It's like 8 players is Critical Role styly, right? It's a big table, it's a fatty table, but you can run 8 people, and they're happy to. So I wonder if we're not going to see the split next time we see these people. I'm confused.
No,
I
they
thought we
they
would have.
did. They said that after the soldier arc, we don't know how many episodes that is, that they were going to come back with the seekers and the schemers together.
Oh, they did say that. Okay.
He said that in the cooldown, and I think probably Brennan didn't get to where he wanted to with either of those tables. I
Mm.
think the soldiers, it was pretty easy to segment them off early. You know, like we got a mission, we're gonna go out of town to go get the guy, and it was pretty easy to like segment them. But the soldiers and the seekers and schemers, it feels too. They're all doing the same thing. They're all going after the same thing. So there needs to be maybe more to separate them so that they're not constantly like overlapping. They need to have discrete goals, you know?
Yes. And it
Uh,
seems like one is the
yeah, this is
machinations
what I
of the
just said.
city. What's it? Oh yeah, mind meld.
It's what I just said. Yep. But moving back just a little bit before we get to post stuff. Julian confronts Octus, doesn't trust his return. So this is the part what I mentioned earlier, what I was teasing earlier. Because what happens is Julian, Matt Mercer role plays Julian very authentically to what we've known so far is that something dangerous is in his midst. So he points his sword at it and says, "Why should we trust you? Your house, you know." He's like, "Your dad just killed my dad." And so, you know, that's pretty authentic. And everyone else is like, "No, we know Taisha fully mama bears on Octus. We don't know a lot of their history, but we know that they are super duper tight. Everything Taisha has done pretty much so far has been to protect Octus, right? It's been either reacting to Thiazi's death or in an effort to protect Octus. So she just like looks mad in the eyes and is like, "I walk toward the blade. I walk into the blade." And Brennan ignored that and pretended she didn't say it and moved on with the scene. And I got really nervous there for a second because I know Matt's not going to back down because that's his character.
Mm.
And I know Abria's not going to back down because that's her real life personality.
Yeah.
And that made me very nervous for a minute. I was like, what is going to happen here? Um, but Brennan just very wisely moved on and kept spitting exposition, so nobody really had time to focus on the conflict.
And that's a great DM move. If you don't know exactly what happens next, shoving the spotlight over to give yourself some processing time and then coming back. Because he does eventually, because I was sitting there like, man, are we doing PvP here? Like, are these some of the house rules we're going to see? Um, Lady Aroness does step between them. So he inserts an NPC physically between them, narratively between them, but like minutes later. I think because he's like, all right, what tools do I have at my disposal to de-escalate the situation, which is in a sense kind of the opposite of what a dungeon master's natural setting is the majority of the time. You're trying to up the stakes again and again and again. So to like the real life triage conflict resolution is tricky. And again, is don't try this at home, folks. If you're playing with friends forever and you guys have gone places together with your role play, awesome. But like, don't show up at the game shop and start poking people with your rapier and yelling. Man, he that there was feeling behind what he was yelling at Octus, who just woke up dead. So he's having a bad day.
Having a bad day.
Having a bad day.
Then we move to then there was, so at the end of the episode, they did not specifically name the Seekers and Schemers, but they did confirm we're getting one episode per week. And it sounds like they're keeping the same schedule of the final Thursday, not because they said next Thursday is a Dispatch one shot. Dispatch is a video game, I think, that they did voices for. I think they talked about it a few months ago. So it's one episode a week. So everyone who thought that they were going to be doing 3 different campaigns on 3 different days of the week, which we've been saying from the beginning, that was no way they were going to do that. They're not going to do that. But hey, chat, do they still have the cooldown on YouTube, or was it just like the first cooldown? Elder Gama Games says Dispatch is rad. We'll take your word for it.
He knows what he's talking about. I believe him.
Yeah, the cooldown, I feel like the cooldown is worth the price of admission for Beacon because they spit so much information. Like we learned that Alex had wanted to play a Necromancer Hollow One.
Hmm.
I've heard of Hollow One. I can't find it on D&D Beyond. Do you know what that is?
I think it's a Van Richten's
Because I own Van Richten's. I don't know why I couldn't find it.
species. Maybe it was. No, it's not
Because
Strahd. I think it's
there's
Van Richten's.
there's Revenant.
Similar vibe at the end of the day. Similar vibe.
Oh well. And so apparently we learned that Alex had told Brennan that he wanted to play a secret necromancer wizard and he said, I would love it if he were murdered by his family.
Hmm.
And he said, I don't want to know. And then Brennan said, well, how about if we do that on camera? And Alex said, sure, I just don't want to know when it's going to happen. So Critical Role is scripted.
Hmm.
Oh, and he did say that Octus is a seeker. So that would imply then that the seekers are Octus, Julian, Taisha, and Valus, and that the schemers would be Azuna, Belair, Murray, and Hal. And so I don't know, I'm most excited about the Soldiers Table. Then probably the Seekers Table, and I think the Schemers is probably the least interesting to me, which is ironic since it has the highest percentage of original cast members. You've got Taliesin, you've got Marisha, and you've got Liam, and then Luis, only one new player, and I love Luis. He's amazing. I love that dude. Everything he's been in, he's perfection. That guy's great. But I don't know. With the reveals about Bolaire, maybe that might make it more interesting. I'm interested to see where that goes. But
I really like Murray as a character. Just because, like, I worked with that woman once or twice when I lived in Nashville. And I will say that's probably the table we're going to learn the most about the what's going on in the underworld and then what happened in the Seekers War. Like that's like the scholarly nerd table. That's where we're gonna get most of the lore drops, I think. And I'm a sucker for that. I read. I'm the kind of nerd that read the Silmarillion, so I'm here for it. I will say, like cast wise, Laura and Sam are kind of my favorites. So them being at the same table is super stacked. And you throw in this um, tiefling, good boy who's totally foolish dynamic there, and oh my god, the tyranny might be my favorite character at this table. I don't know yet, but like she's a dark horse.
Dark
She's up there.
horse. Yeah, good way to describe it. Oh, what we were talking about like a half an hour ago. I think that Marisha is supposed to be the comic relief character.
Yeah.
I think that when we were saying Murray toned it down, I think she was just trying to be expedient at the table. But I think because look at who else is at that table: Luis Carrazzo, Taliesin Jaffe, and Liam O'Brien, and the three of them are incapable of playing a comic relief character. It's just not possible. So it has to be Marisha.
Yeah, they get their oneers in once in a while. Especially Taliesin will get jokes in there.
He's funny, but he doesn't do silly. He doesn't do a silly character.
That's the distinction. That's the line there. They'll do funny, not silly.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, Murray's clearly silly, can hold her own. And like, oh, we didn't talk about the fact she's a divination wizard, and maybe
Mm.
first subclass confirmed, and she was sitting on a nat 20. So a divination wizard, you roll two d20s in the beginning of the session or the day, and you just have those to insert. And she had a 2 and a 20, which is like is almost the best outcome. um, and Brennan reminded her and also maybe tempted her once or twice, just like, oh, don't forget you got a nat 20 in your pocket. And he kind of hammed it up. It might have been for the cameras a little bit, but he said like the only way things went down as they did to get Octus back up and not to have some sort of catastrophic consequences of like disarming this necrotic god bomb thing that was in his chest was with that natural 20 and wouldn't have happened otherwise. I don't know if I believe that, but he did say
You
it.
know, maybe it's possible that the reason that the Seekers and Schemers weren't split, maybe it's possible Brennan didn't get to where he thought he was going to get to at the end of the episode. Maybe he thought that the crap, I'm getting the groups confused now. The Seekers, maybe he thought the Seekers' first mission was going to be resurrecting Octus.
Hmm. He
Uh,
he did imply that like the choice to pull out Pin or the stone, or was there a third option? Like the choice he made while fully dead, he pulls out the stone and like unravels in the afterlife. He's just like, oh, and you're gone. Leave the table. And that was his soul. That wasn't his body. That was his spirit, soul, whatever. He's like, you evaporate, and see you later. Get out of here. I was like, whoa, okay. I guess you're really dead if you die in the land of the dead.
yeah.
And he implied that like that was a real choice that happened at the table, and there are there are consequences to that. His family seemed pretty bummed out that things went the way they went. So clearly he undermined some sort of plan, and yeah, we'll figure out what happens there because he could have gotten out of there. Like that was a fair fight. Brendan went to the trouble of like rolling in front of the table for a lot of that, especially early
Hmm.
on when it was like unclear what was happening. He went behind the screen maybe because you don't want to burn the gimmick, and also maybe he was fudging a little to like not have a full TPK. I don't know. I wouldn't blame the guy, but that played out like he could have not died there. He totally died there, and apparently he could have not come back. He could have rolled. They all have secondary characters, and I like that so much. That makes it feel much more higher stakes. That makes the players much more engaged. I That's the kind of D&D that I'm into. And sometimes Critical Role feels a little like plot armory, and that undermines the stakes. And here, tensions are high. Think this is the realness.
Tensions are high. I'm looking forward to the soldier's arc, to hearing more about Cadigan
Oh yes.
and Wick and everybody. The fact that those five PCs were absent from this episode, I missed them, and I think that tells me that's my favorite table and the one I'm most interested in seeing what happens. But overall, I'm still pretty excited. I hope that now that the overture is open, that the episodes are a little more like three and a half. I would be totally fine with that. I don't feel robbed with a 3 hour episode, because I'm gonna watch it either way, and one way I get 2 hours of my life back.
I don't feel like we're getting like filler though or fluff. There are like
No,
late in the CR season. Sometimes I'll be like, all right, I'm gonna like combat is the least interesting part for some of the episodes. It's like, okay, no one's gonna drop here. I've seen what they haven't leveled up for a while. Like big fights, okay, but like sometimes the combat like just takes forever, especially with 8 people at the table. There's no real
yeah,
consequence. This fight, that was not the case at all. This was we had a similar. You told me, and I had the same experience. You were like, "Oh, I went to watch a little bit of it," and like hours went by. I was like, "Oh shoot!"
yeah,
And I was like, "Same, bro." That was not the
yeah.
plan.
Yeah, the combats can get a little tedious, but I think my favorite part of any episode is when they bring the map out
Oh, that's different because it's like
and
that's
and
like
they
the
do that
moment, like
that
the
overhead
birthday cake.
pan.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that's one thing I like about Dimension 20 is that happens so fast sometimes you might miss them, where they do quick little cutaways of like reenacting things, but with the minis. Like they'll show a character get hit by thunder wave, and you can see a mini with a little stick on the end of it, and the stick is just barely. It kind of feels so like lo-fi that there's like a little stick knocking the mini off the plastic off the plastic cliff edge. I like that. They're not going to do that on Critical Role. There's no way.
Ah, anything's possible. Brendan Lee Mulligan's in charge now,
Anything's
and
possible.
Abria's at the table. She's a wild card. She could just like minis are gonna get smushed together. I'm sure. She's gonna make somebody kiss at some point.
Probably. So chat, what is Dispatch? It's a Vidya game, right? And I think it was like one that was this the one that the Critical Role people, they did a bunch of voices for it, and then they announced at that same time that they were partnering with these people to make a game. Crit Role game. Is that these people? Now I gotta Google it.
Ooh, do that. There's a Critical Role game coming out. That's news to me.
Dispatch
That's
video
super
game
cool.
Critical Role.
I'm
Not
looking forward to Mighty Nine coming out as the animated series because that was like I
a
watched
week
a
away.
little bit of Critical Role season 1 live and then was like okay and went back and watched a little bit of the beginning, which are very rough, and then watched like the end and felt guilty about it, but watched the end of season 1 because it was happening. So season 2 was the first one I watched beginning to end, and kind of concurrently. I think everyone eventually starts to get behind and then listens to it as a podcast for like 2 weeks.
Okay, Dispatch. I've heard of this. I've actually seen this on social media a lot. This is the superhero workplace comedy. That's sort of like a spiritual successor to Telltale game.
Ah,
So it's like visual novel, dialogue trees where your choices affect things. Did you play the
is this a
Telltale games? I loved those Telltale games.
a little bit? I had a buddy who was like obsessed. Is
I
this the
played
one with
all
Jesse?
all of
Not
them.
Jesse. Oh my God, what's his name? Jesse from Breaking Bad. I'm bad with actors.
Oh, Aaron Paul?
Aaron Paul. Is Aaron Paul involved in that, or am I thinking of something else now?
Mm, Aaron Paul as Robert Paulson the third, or as Robert Robertson the third
His
slash
name is
Mecha
Robert
Man.
Paulson.
That's totally what happened to me, but it's Robert
Mm-hmm.
Robertson the third slash Mecha Man. In death,
So
a
yes,
member of Project Mayhem has a name. Um,
confirmed. Okay,
Jeffrey
all right.
Wright, Laura Bailey, Travis Willingham, Moist Critical. Hey, Charlie's in this game.
Wow.
Jax, Ellen Pierce, Young Gravy, Liam O'Brien, Matthew Mercer. Yeah, there's
Okay.
this
Okay.
was
I'll tell you.
developed by Ad Hoc Studio team of former Telltale Games. Yeah, I gotta get this because I loved the Walking Dead games. The first season especially is probably I think the only video game that's ever made me cry was that first season of The Walking Dead. The Wolf Among Us, Tales from the Borderlands, they're all so good. So good.
Righteous. I might, if Aaron Paul or Jeffrey Wright show up, maybe I'll watch this one shot. But I also might enjoy a week off of being like, I need to watch 5 hours of Critical Role to talk about it on Tuesday.
Dispatch is an episodic game. 2 of the 8 episodes are out. Oh, okay. So, I'll get it like next March when it's all out.
And cheaper.
I've been burned by episodic video games before. Valve, with your Half-Life 2 episodes. You know what I'm talking about, Gabe. I'm still waiting for a Half-Life 3. Where is it?
All right, because it's Tuesday, I'm in the host spot, and I feel like I got to call this because Jim's going off on.
I got a lot more to say.
I know you. I know he does. I've heard it before. We're getting into the 1 hour long Valve rant, and I just gotta. I think I'm gonna call it, guys. Thanks for hanging out with us on Crit Talk. Tell us you like this, and we'll keep doing it. Otherwise, hang out with us on Casual Friday, Landlocked Warlocks. Jim, me, and Brad, the one, the only Direwolf, is out there. Come hang out. Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Thanks, Ordinary Orange Cat. We like you too.